This week on Counsil Customs, we built a 390 big block. Want to see how we did it? Stick around. See how cool it looks whenever you get done too. Well, we got the 390 here in the garage. I'm gonna start tearing this thing down, taking off all of like the front accessory pulleys, all the bracketry, water pump, fuel pump. Take all that stuff off. I've got a couple of tables set up here. I'm going to make sure that everything goes into bags and is tagged, labeled, what it is, where it goes. Make the rebuilding process super smooth later on. But I'm going to go ahead and start digging into this, start taking everything off. All right, so we got the engine pretty much torn down on the top side. So now we're going to start pulling these lifters out one by one in no particular order because we got new going in. But I want to take a look at them and see how they look. That looks good. Looks really good. Well, from the look of it, these might be original coming out of here. They're being stubborn trying to come out. But I'm not feeling any ridges down at the bottom, and there's no scarring on the walls as it's coming out. So we're probably gonna be in good shape here. All right, now that we got all the lifters out of there, we're gonna go ahead and pop these heads off. So let me go ahead and just, it's fine, put it in that. I tightened a little bit of these through. It's gonna hit that pin. One back in there a little bit. There's actually still a little bit of cross hatching and stuff on these walls. I'm going to say that all this engine is completely original. You get a little wire wheel or something. We can clean the top of that piston off and just make sure that it doesn't say anything on it. I'm going to bring home my mics tomorrow and we'll check the size of this so that way I can get rings ordered. But there's no slop in any of these pistons. And honestly, I think the rings are probably good, but we're going to replace them. Oh, that just... We don't have any writing on them. Nothing indicating the fact that these have ever been replaced, because a lot of times they've been replaced. They might, not all, but a lot of them will say 10,000s, 20,000s, 30,000s, showing the fact that they've been bored before. None of these are showing that. They do have some build up on the top, which is typical of a high mileage engine, which this should be a fairly high mileage motor. showing the fact that the odometer in the car is showing 100 or showing 15,000 miles. So it's probably 115,000 miles. But I mean, it's nothing in here looks bad at all. But I'm going to get, and I wasn't afraid of using the wire wheel on those right there because this head gasket's still sitting on here. But I'm going to get the rest of the tools that I need to disassemble the bottom side of this engine tomorrow. So that way tomorrow I can take the bottom side apart, and I'm going to take this whole block to work with me and clean it and everything. But I'll show you all the rest of the teardown tomorrow whenever I get all the rest of the tools. So this will be it for this evening. All right, guys. Today I got my 3-jaw puller set or home so I can get set up on this and start getting it pulled apart. I need to get the harmonic balancer pulled off of here. I need to get the timing cover pulled off, timing gears, pull the cam out, pull this oil filter housing. I'm sure there's a correct mount or name for that. I just don't quite know what it is off the top of my head right this moment. But pull the oil pan, start pulling the pistons out. So let's start taking this harmonic balancer off and go from there. All right, so pulling that off there, if you notice this dampener off the front had a V-groove in it for a belt. And whenever I just pulled that off there, my heart sank because I said, well, now I got to buy that. But as it turns out, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because then I got on CBF's website. I went and grabbed my new 3-groove lower pulley here, looked at it, and said, well, there's a gap between here and there. So I got on their website and it says you actually have to have a harmonic balancer with no V-belt, because the V-belt ones are made to have this step right here. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. All right, so I did have to go to the shop and get a 3-jaw puller, or I'm sorry, one of these 3 bolt pullers instead of the jaw. There it is. Now let me put all this away and then we'll take all this off. Now I'm going to pull the front oil pan bolts off. Just these 4 for right now, and then I can go ahead and pull these out. So be very gentle with it because this is aluminum. Slide that out. Pop that off. You got some slop, but it ain't insane for such a high mileage engine. Let me pause real quick, take a couple of pictures on how everything is put together, and then we'll get back on taking this apart. So here we go. We got the engine back on the stand. I took it to work, and we have a pressure washer there with steam, and I pressure washed the engine down, got it all cleaned out, degreased it, got it really clean, found that the cooling passages inside of this engine were terrible. And I had a little bit of a cooling issue before, but I didn't realize that I was fighting this much on this car. Here's a couple of the freeze plugs I pulled out of it. You see this one's got a couple little holes. You can see some daylight if I move it around. There's another one. There's one. Now, granted, yes, I hit this one with a punch, but this one was the worst one out of all of them before that. But the thing is you couldn't tell that these were that bad. There was only a little tiny bit of weeping down the side, and whenever I hit them with the pressure washer, it just blew the rust open. Got that done. I've got to hone the engine. Haven't done that yet. I got to finish getting the pistons, the rings and everything put on the pistons, and we'll start getting those assembled. I'll go ahead and hone this engine real fast, and then we can start putting the rings and everything on the pistons over there. And then we'll bring it over here. We'll start putting everything together. But here we go. Let's get this home. All right, I got those bearings all in and assembly lubed together. There we go. Crank is in. Now I'll start putting the main caps on. Whenever I get to the back here, I'll show you what all we got going on, because it's pretty crazy how this rear main seals up. There might be other engines like it, but I know that FEs are specific and they're very strange on the way that these go together. I got all the mains in, but that's your typical process on any engine, so I didn't think it was worth filming. But this one is a little bit different on a Ford 390. So you're going to drop your main in. So I've already got one in, but now I'm going to show you how I do it. On these 390 blocks, your back main, your rear main, has these rubber sleeves. So you not only have your rubber gasket down on bottom, you also have these little rubber sleeves that go in the sides to try to stop the leaking as well. So these go down in the sides here, and I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube to make it slide easier, but these have got to go down in, just a little dab, and then smear it around. So these go on here, and then what I found to make it easiest is using a rubber mallet on this little rubber piece. It's pretty stiff. There we go. I actually needed something a little bit more solid to get it rolling. But now you have to take this little pin where it's flush. There it is. So that is how you mount the rear main on a 390. Now I'll go ahead and torque these down in sequence to the torque spec real quick. Then my next step will be putting the new rings on the pistons, and I can go ahead and slap the pistons back in. All right, so we're going to start installing this camshaft in here. You want to make sure you have plenty of engine assembly lube on it. You can't have too much on this. So liberally install or apply assembly lube to it. Wipe it on. All right, now you can start stabbing your camshaft in. Now, sometimes what I'll do here is take a screwdriver and stick it in here where you can control the cam on the other end. There you go. Installed. Okay, so two things. One, my microphone just broke, so we're gonna have to do it all off camera. And I went ahead and assembled this because I had to I'm using my phone to record. So switching back and forth between the two to figure out how everything went together, it took me a couple minutes to figure out where each piece went, because this timing chain is a little bit different than the factory because this is a double roller. You can see where, right there, where it's got two sprockets and it has double chains. But the biggest thing is this little spacer shim goes behind the timing gear up here behind the camshaft, but this one doesn't have that anymore because it's made onto this timing gear. Now, with that being said, it just had to make sure that everything went in correctly. You have your little spacer that goes in the back that bolt screws in. You can see the little screw head. There's one on each side. And then slide this on, and I'm just putting everything back to factory top dead center. And I'm not doing anything where I need advanced, because what you see right there, there's an A for advanced and an R for retarded, and then you have 0 for 0 timing. And we're just going back with 0 timing. I don't need it advanced or retarded. So got that set in there. Everything's set at top dead center. So now we can start bolting on the timing cover. The little spacer here that goes on the bottom, and then our little keyway that goes down here for the harmonic balancer. But we're not ready for that piece yet, and we're not ready for the harmonic balancer, but we can put the timing cover back on, and we can put our little shim piece that goes in here. All right, so I'm gonna show you the difference between these two heads. The 390 heads and the 428 Cobra Jet heads. If you look at the size right here, you see how there's all this meat that's still left on it. Take the same gasket, throw it over here. See, now we have a full passageway. So now we're gonna get more airflow with these heads than with the old 390 heads. So let's get these heads put on the engine. So I got the gaskets put on here, and I put RTV around the water ports on each side. Now I just need to build a mountain of RTV on the front and the back. Instead of using that little crappy gasket, you do this, and then you don't have to worry about it leaking. But you gotta build a mountain. Whenever I bought this intake, I also purchased ARP bolts for the intake as well. So I've got some nice bolts going in it. And your two rear ones are shorter think that's the reason why I bought them, is because they were longer for the Edelbrock intake. All right, so the paint that was on this engine originally was the Ford blue color. That Ford blue color. Then whenever I got these heads, the guy had bolted them on the engine and never ran the car, and then he wound up trading for a set of aluminum heads. So these heads are old Ford blue color, and I decided this go around I wanted to go with dark Ford blue, so we're gonna see how this turns out. All right, our paint is dry. I went ahead and unmasked it, and I went ahead and just stabbed in our rocker arms. The only thing on an FE you want to make sure you watch whenever you're putting your rocker arms in, the way your oil flows, it has a tapered oil galley down in here, and whenever you install that bolt, you need to make sure that you watch that this one is has a tapered neck on the bolt. You want to make sure you don't put that in a different location, because that allows the oil to flow through your rockers. So you just need to make sure you put that in the correct location. Just take a second, slow down, just look it over before you just start slapping everything together. You don't want to overlook something that simple. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it in time lapse and just slap this engine back together. So that's it. We got her built. 390 big block with Cobra jet heads, Edelbrock intake. We've got a fully freshened up bottom end. Nothing crazy, just freshened up. Got Patronics inside of our distributor. I never told y'all that before, but I do have Patronics in here. I did it prior to all this. So we're just about ready to stab it in the car. The only thing we have left is a couple little bolts that I missed to put that one on, so the bracket's just a little loose. But I'll come back and tighten all that up. I gotta get this video edited so I can get it out to y'all. But next week, we start looking at what we gotta do to get our AOD, the Ford Fox body transmission, overdrive transmission, adapted up to this Ford FE big block. I've already got the adapter, I've already got a transmission, and I got nothing but time. So let's get this thing figured out. Let's get it in there. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you next week. Keep coming back. Hey, I don't say it, but do me a favor. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. It helps me so I can help y'all. I'm not to the point yet where I've got money coming in, and as you can see, I'm spending the crap out of it. So y'all help me build up so we can start doing more of this stuff.